आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे यूरोप को, नेटो, यूरोजोन, वहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है और वहाँ पे जो हो रहा है उसके हमारे मुल्क पे, हमारे खित्ते पे क्या असरात हैं। ज़्यादा टाइम आज नहीं लेंगे। जेनेवा स्विट्जरलैंड से हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे पीटर बैशनेट। ही हैज सर्व्ड in Islamabad and Afghanistan. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us today. So for my audience, we are switching to English because Peter is with us. A very brief introduction. He is currently stationed in Geneva, Switzerland, and he is associated with Munich Security. He is the former German military diplomat, and he is currently associated with Defense and Security of Switzerland. So, Peter, thank you very much. Nice to see you again. Let's begin by talking about Europe first, and then we'll move to the other avenues. How is Europe today? Where is NATO standing today after whatever has happened in the previous 6 months, especially after J.D. Vance made his speech at the Munich Security Conference, which sent some shock waves around?
So, dear Dr. Safa, thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, I want to greet all your listeners, especially around who are interested in the topic and want to see or want to hear the European view on this issue, what you mentioned. Well, the last half year since the Vice President, J.D. Vance, had a speech in Munich at the famous Munich Security Conference, he mainly, let's say, shocked some of the people of the establishment and some of our politicians, especially the Germans. They refuted what he said, so they were not happy with this. What were his main issues? His main issues is that, in Europe we should have to take care of our own things. And especially because the United States cannot bear all the costs. That is one of the key messages that he raised. And he said also something about, in particular in Germany, about the free speech. Therefore, we were a little bit outraged because they said in Germany there is no longer free speech. And this is not really the case. We might have some problems in that issue, but it's not really the case. But basically what happens, you see there is a tension, and I think we shall go into this deeper, what happens then here in Europe, in particular that is linked to the war, Russia and Ukraine, because the Europeans are very much, or let's say the European establishment is very much engaged in this, not war, but in this conflict. And therefore, things have got a more dynamic than we expected.
Yeah. So the dynamics are evolving with time. The Russian interest in expanding the war beyond Ukraine, is that really a reality? Is that how Europe looks at the situation today, that the Russians have the intention of pushing the war beyond Ukrainian borders? What is the real worry?
Well, now my answer will be twofold. One fold is what is public perceived and talking by the politicians. Our politicians and the security establishment clearly says there is an intention by Russia to go beyond Ukraine. And they really bring up some of the activities of Russia, saying now they are strengthening their bases along the western areas. They are more or less doing every day some, let's say, incursions. They were accused to have drones or their flights, the aircrafts. They are entering the NATO airspace and so on. So there's, let's say, getting more tense than before. Now, my personal opinion, and that's maybe a little bit different, I don't see that is the real danger, other than you don't know who is provoking what. Meaning also our activities in Europe may have an impact on the Russian view and vice versa. So, before 2014, we were really happening to say, okay, we are in a peaceful world, everything is clear, and then things get, let's say, more tense. And that has to do also with the Ukrainian-Russian war.
Right. So there is this Russian enclave that we were talking about before we started this program, Kaliningrad. So they have some presence there. The Russians have some presence there near the Baltic Sea. And there have been accusations from the European side, as in the Western Europe, that they have been disrupting the commercial flights from there. They have been using their digital capability for switching off this navigation system of the commercial flights. And so there have been such allegations. How critical is that area for the European security?
Let me first talk about Kaliningrad. It's the old German Königsberg, and the famous town where the philosopher Immanuel Kant was born, and he was active. Sometime I think it would be better that we follow what Immanuel Kant says, the rule of law. But what you said, Kaliningrad has always been, and I was in Poland on active duty in a headquarters, and I always asked the Poles, what do you think about Kaliningrad? That was 20 years ago. And they said, yeah, we're always watching what's happening there because Russia has some troops at this place. I don't talk about the numbers, but it's a quite significant troop presence in Kaliningrad because that is one of the ports to go to the Baltic Sea. We know that is St. Petersburg and it's Kaliningrad. These are the ports for the Russians to access the Baltic Sea. Now you talked about disturbances, let's say about, accusations that there is a GPS jamming. There are a lot of jamming activities along this area. I was in a conference this year where we were shown that there are in these areas activities, but you never know from which side. Of course, when you go and you ask the secret services, then they can tell you who was the originator for what activities about that. But anyway, concerning all cyber activity, the cyber attacks which Russia is accused, there has never been a real source saying, okay, this is coming from Russia. There might be some groups operating in Russia to do this, and but if they are state-sponsored or not, that is always a discussion and can be used to accuse or not. So and we call all this activity called the hybrid warfare. And this is now the modern word here in Europe, that we say there are no formal declarations of war, but there are activities in the cyberspace, in the information arena, in the social media, and so on, that can be, let's say, attached to activities. You call it a hybrid warfare. That is what has changed in the last 6 months already.